Engineering AMA. We are joined today by the extremely brilliant SKALE engineering community. For
Guys,
starters, did you know that SKALE has witnessed over 2 million unique active wallets interacting on-chain with zero gas fees? You heard it, that's zero gas fees. Also, a massive 187.3 million USD saved, 77,922 and 7 ETH spared from gas fees. That's 9.6 million transactions and over 2.09 million unique active wallets. That's truly the impact that SKALE is making. On the engineering side, the engineering community has been hard at work deploying the 2.2 network release on the mainnet, resulting in a 30% increase in block mining speed. Looking forward, the 2.3 network release is also on the horizon, bringing enhanced compatibility with Ethereum and exciting improvements. These include improved Scale Chain API compatibility, increased scalability, Solidity 0.8.2 plus support, and we'll definitely have the engineers go further into that. An automatic change API IP feature, Oracle verifier support, but that's not all. Portal version 2.2 and the Scale Chain pricing UI are shaping up to enhance user experience and pricing models. Now, on to those who can speak much further than I can. We'll pass it over to the folks. So for our first point, a high-level summary of the January 2024 Scale performance updates, we're focusing on the 30% increase in block speed and compatibility enhancements. D3, I'll pass this to you first. Could you provide us with an overview of what led to the significant 30% increase in block speed, and why was this pivotal for Scale?
yes, Zara. Hey everyone. My name is D3. I'm head of engineering in SKALE, and I'm ready to give all the interesting information about our 2.2 release and following releases. So, what about 2.2 release? It really was a big milestone for us. In December, we pushed it to mainnet, and currently, what we have analyzed, what we saw right now, it's 30%. We have 30% up to speed of our block mining time. So block mining time is like 30% faster. So after our 2.2 release, it's even more faster chain, even more faster transactions. And to start from the main thing of the 2.2 release was a lot of the optimizations inside our S chains. It was memory optimizations. It was different leaks that we have fixed. Also, we have updated the core libraries for the database, and because of this, we have significant performance improvements on our mainnet. And also, what we have now, the stability of the network currently is much higher than it was in the previous year. We have suspected a big, really, for us, it's the first time that we have seen it. It's 100% uptime of our S chain, and it's a really big number for us. And so 2.2 release has main improvements for S chains from the performance perspective, and for stability perspective, it also has a lot of improvements. Yeah.
Awesome. It sounds like there's significant improvements for S chains. Stan, passing it to you. Regarding these updates, how does this improvement affect the overall performance and scalability of the Scale network?
Yeah, that's a good question. You guys probably know, our token holders know, our community members know that Scale started in 2018 approximately. So our code base has been developing for a pretty long time now, and with each release, Scale gets a little faster. But the point to understand is that we also, when we do this improvements in speed, there are two things that we don't want to break. One thing is stability of our network, because we have lots and lots of transactions, users, and so each Each change has to be incremental. And the second thing, we also want to make sure that at the end of the road, scale becomes really fast. And since scale is used by really applications that require interactive use, for instance, AI, we have AI applications. XOR is probably at the moment the most advanced AI application in blockchain production in the world. They're doing really interesting things with AI. We also have lots of games. Both for AI and games, the performance is critical. And if you want to get to the interactive use, probably the performance at the end of the road has to be for everything less than a second, because humans, a second is pretty big thing for humans. If something takes longer than a second, then people start noticing it and seeing it as long. So our ultimate goal, if we want AI on blockchain, if we want games on blockchain, we need to go under a second, pretty much in everything, in token transfers, in blocks. But this road will take us some time. We know that we could improve our blockchain, but every incremental change has to be reasonably small, so we don't disrupt the stability. So we know that at the end of the road, we can achieve those goals, but with every release, we're improving step by step. And this is just one. I just want that everyone understands that this 30% that we got is one of the steps. We've done steps before, and there's the next step, and there will be more and more steps as scale proceeds, as years to come. Years happen, there will be more and more performance improvements. So you'll basically, from this perspective, scale is like Apple. You get Apple 2, Apple 3, Apple 4, Apple 5. Each new phone is getting faster. And we know that scale is also going to get faster. So this is a really important thing. Our users are noticing it. Our customers are noticing it. And in the future, there will be more things, but we're going to introduce them slowly because we don't want to disrupt the stability of the network.
Definitely. And just to take a pause from the engineering chat to highlight one of the projects that are building on Scale XORD. For those tuning in that are not familiar, it's a live Web3 protocol on Scale, and it addresses the issues of misinformation by creating a decentralized community that connects all public data on the web, which is a very powerful tool. So using this open source protocol, XORD collects global data, ensuring neutrality and transparency. And so by decentralizing the data, it circumvents barriers imposed by those entities attempting to control information flow. Definitely check out XORD. They have a Twitter page. Their website is also available there. But yeah, they have an awesome goal to extract and sell reputation scores for brands, cryptocurrencies, and stocks, all through analyzing social media conversations. And API, I mean, AI has a very interesting role here. But speaking of API, my slip right there, that actually brings us to our next discussion point on the anticipated features of release 2.3. This covers enhancements in API compatibility, chain scalability, Solidity support, IP flexibility, and Oracle verifier support. So D3, I'm going to have you take lead on this one as well. I'd love for you to elaborate on the enhancements made to the Scale chain for better Ethereum compatibility. And also, can you provide more details about IP flexibility and how would that help the validators?
Of course, it's a really important milestone for us, as after 2.2 release, we have stabilized a lot of things and increased our performance and speed. So now we are working on Ethereum compatibility, and in 2.3 we have fixed a lot of things related to be compatible with Ethereum virtual machine. For example, there was a lot of customer requests from the different labs about, oh, guys, please make make this request like on Ethereum, and we really improved API a lot in the 2.2 release. It's related to different API calls like ETH thinking, ETH net version, and so on. Like some small API calls, but they're important for our customers, for the apps, and for their users. Also, a really important thing in the 2.3 is about solidity and allowing to deploy the contracts that were compiled with a new version of Solidity that is higher than 8.20. So currently, from the 2.3 release, you can deploy your contracts that are deployed with the latest version of the Solidity on our chains and use them as always, as all contracts. So it's a really significant improvement. But also a good news for our validators. We finally released. We finally developed the change IP functionality. So the main thing for this improvement is that validators will be. It will be much more easier for our validators to manage their infrastructure, because right now we will allow them to change IP, and we will not ask them anything else, because everything will be automatically work on the background, like changing IP in all chains, in all nodes, and everything will be on the background. So we will not call our validators. We will just ask the new IP, and that's it. So everything will be automatically. So it's really important for our validators, for our community, and for maintaining in the network. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for those updates. Sawyer, moving on to your area. So how will the ability for archive and sync nodes to broadcast transactions impact SKALE chain customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, first of all, thanks for having me. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Sawyer. Sometimes you see me around as the Great Axios. I'm part of the SKALE Developer DAO, huge member of the SKALE community. Always a pleasure to be here. So before I answer the kind of improvements and impacts that SKALE chain customers will see, I think it's important to just understand really quickly what each of the quote unquote nodes available in the SKALE network do. That way this makes a little bit more sense. So the most important quote unquote node in the SKALE network is going to be your core consensus node or your super node, depending on where you read it. You might see it in a couple different things, but those are the nodes that the validators run, right? So these are the third party independent validators. They're running these core nodes, and they're the ones actually doing consensus, processing transactions, proposing blocks. From there, the engineering team has also created the full sync and archive nodes. So the full sync and archive nodes today operate very similarly. What they do is they effectively keep the state of the chain. The key difference is that when they sync off these consensus nodes, when block rotations occur, meaning that over a certain amount of data in blocks has been processed, the full sync node rotates similarly to the consensus nodes, which is a design of the network, whereas the archive node retains all of this data. From there, the broadcast feature that is planned to come out in one of these future releases has the potential to have some really large impacts on the network as a whole. One of these is the fact that it can actually send transactions right directly to these consensus nodes, right? That's what the broadcast feature will be. And so this means we can actually remove the need for the SKALE proxy, right? So as a whole, the network, we can actually run less infrastructure. Developers can run their own full sync or archive nodes to not only read transactions, but to also have them send out to the consensus nodes. From my conversations with developers and from my conversations with the engineering team, I think some of the biggest improvements that we're going to see are going to be reduced latency. There's going to be less data movement, right? So there's going to be fewer places that transaction has to go through to actually be processed. Additionally, it's going to solve one of the issues that we haven't actually seen in quite a long time, but there will be much less chance of drop transactions. Meaning, if a node that is connected to the proxy goes out of sync, the chances of it being dropped are much more decreased, because the full sync node can actually broadcast to multiple consensus nodes simultaneously. Lastly, again, just the quick important piece here, because consensus nodes are doing the actual operations of the chain, the more that we can offload from the consensus nodes, the more they have the ability to do their job. And so adding in broadcasting to full sync and archive means that we can give developers, again, more resources to do more work, allowing the consensus nodes to operate faster and faster, and really kind of lean into these performance improvements the engineering team has done recently. So we should just see better performance for everybody.
That's awesome. So it looks like we're having that verification there, and I want to move in to the next part on verifying SKALE Oracle responses utilizing smart contracts. So Stan, from my understanding, the SKALE chain, this has been introduced to the SKALE chain, which gives developers and users the confidence in the authenticity of the data returned. So I would love for you to shed more light on what the Oracle responses are, and what is the significance of Oracle verifier support?
Great question, Zara. So I'll start by saying that people think of SKALE as a zero-fee network. What people don't know is that we have not only zero fees for transactions, we also have zero fees for transferring tokens between different chains inside SKALE. But also we have zero-fee Oracle. If you use Chainlink, you have to pay in Chainlink tokens. And there's a very limited amount of information you can get. Pretty much, I think for the most part, Chainlink provides information on token prices. That's it. And if you want to get a new feed, then you have to talk to Chainlink. For SKALE has this dynamic Oracle where SKALE network, you can pretty much specify any URL, and SKALE network will dynamically go and retrieve this URL for you and get the information. And there will be multiple retrievals, and then there will be a group of nodes signing this information. So when you get this piece of information, it's signed by super majority of your chain nodes, by two servers. So we have this feature which is super cool, and there are lots and lots of applications of SKALE Oracle, but it took us time to develop the Oracle. It's a pretty big thing, and this particular thing, it's the last piece in the SKALE Oracle. It allows you to verify easily SKALE Oracle anywhere on SKALE chain. So it's a required item. So it kind of concludes our Oracle development, because now with this release, you can go anywhere in the world, retrieve dynamically any piece of information. You can go and read a tweet from Donald Trump and push it in a smart contract, and it's totally free. So the network won't charge you. And so with this last piece, we are becoming a zero-fee network in terms of transactions, in terms of token transfers, and in terms of Oracle. So literally, you don't really need anything. You just need to have your SKALE chain, and then everything you need, you can pretty much develop any DApp, and it's going to be totally free for the user. People ask us that usually this question. It's not the DApp pays to SKALE network, but once this DApp gets the chain, and we get some chain payments this quarter, which is super great. Once the DApp pays for the chain, everything else becomes free for the user. This kind of concludes and it's super important item. The last thing I want to say is that when SKALE operates, there are some small things that customers want, and we also always try to be like a small startup, in the sense that we put high priority to what people want, essentially. And our releases, we're trying to have the small releases now, that we can be really, really responsive to what our users want, our DApps want. Essentially, for each release, we make a decision what to include into the release based on what our DApps want. And this definitely is a small thing, but it completes a big thing. And all of the other things that Dima was talking about, some of them are really small but really important. And usually the way we do this, talk to our DAS team, to people to talk to our customers, our DApps, and we're trying to understand the priority and usually trying to have this really iterative and agile process where we get people what people want, essentially. And that's really, this is everything in this release, pretty much everything actually. Some of them are small pieces, but these are things that people need.
Free to the end user, sign me up. These are awesome updates. Thank you, Stan. Moving on into scale chain pricing, the community saw that the first version of the scale chain pricing model has been developed and released, and this marked a very significant milestone for Scale. The development has already seen the first chains paying into the network, setting a precedent for future engagements and collaborations within the Scale ecosystem. So this is a great pivot of Stan discussing free to the end user, but now we're moving on to how does the ecosystem actually run if it is free to end users. So Sawyer, passing it on to you, how does the first version of scale chain pricing model work? And what does it mean for the future of developers that are looking to build within the ecosystem?
Absolutely. So scale chain pricing is, first of all, super excited that we have had the first chains pay in. Now, what it means is that instead of validators being incentivized through bounties or consistent rewards and inflation, things like that, which most proof of stake networks have in some way, most proof of work and proof of stake networks also incentivize validators through gas fees, right? So what this means is validators are paid instead of consistently, they're only paid when they propose a block or mine a block or something like that. And so scale chain pricing, which was kind of part of the very early designs, and then the community kind of took over and pushed it through, operates in a very different way. And so chain pricing is designed to make sure that the individuals or entities running the network have the ability to be stable and sustainable, right? Because if you're not able to actually pay for your validator nodes, then you're not going to want to run a node for the scale network. However, because we don't have gas fees, that means they're not getting paid, or the validators aren't getting paid, right, per transaction. In this case, with chain pricing, what it means is chain owners or operators are required to pay into the network every month, or they could prepay in advance using the SKALE token on the Scale Europa hub. So using the network's own DeFi liquidity hub, you actually pay in using smart contracts and the Scale portal, and it actually locks these tokens in a contract, which can then be withdrawn by the validators month over month. And then the validators are actually required to have good uptime, doing the right things. All of this is outlined in the proposal to claim these rewards or these payments. So you can think of it like a rent, right? If you don't pay your rent, you don't get your apartment or you don't get your house. If you don't pay for your scale chain, you don't pay your rent, then you don't get your scale chain. It's going to effectively be relinquished back to the network, and those compute resources are going to be recycled. So that's how scale chain pricing works from a very high level. There's obviously a lot of layers here, so if I miss something, I apologize. What it means for the future of developers, though, is that you now have the ability to build your Web3 applications in a more stable manner, right? There's a lot of really amazing projects building in this space. However, one of the biggest limitations is if your gas fee can spike from a penny up to 50 cents at any given time, it can severely limit your ability to do compute on these networks and build a great user experience. Scale chain pricing means that we know zero gas fees is always going to be true on scale for every single scale chain. We also know that validators are now going to be paid in a consistent manner, allowing them to become more stable. You as the developer now have the opportunity to say, I'm going to take advantage of the system. I want to build on it. And I know that I'm going to have this zero gas fee end user compute. And the people that are actually providing the compute are going to have a sustainable business model to effectively work and operate on. And so it's basically created this this really great setup for every constituent of the network. And that's kind of where we are today in phase 2.
Okay, awesome. So the pipeline sounds like developers to stable operating costs, the strongest unit economics, and then hubs are utilizing this to innovate and find ways. So this is awesome for attracting developers to the network.
Absolutely.
Not that I know what it's like for a developer to develop on a network, but just from a non-developer perspective, it does seem very attractive. Thanks for the information, Sawyer. I know some of the community is asking questions. We'll go ahead and run through those as well. Moving on to a very fun part, rapid fire questions. Burning questions from the community that have been coming in. Sawyer, back to you. What steps is SKALE taking to break down the UX barrier in crypto? D3 and Stan, you guys can both jump in as well afterwards, but essentially, like, what are the improvements for the user? And we know that there is a really big UX barrier in crypto. But before going into how SKALE is improving it, do you want to just highlight very briefly what are the major barriers that users are currently experiencing?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's in a lot of the branding you probably see around SKALE, which is, gas fees, right? That's probably the biggest barrier in blockchain in Web3. Additionally, every network kind of has its own pros and cons and its own, positives and its own limits. I think one of the most common ones that we see a lot of developers really taking advantage of on SKALE is the large block gas limit and the ability to do so much more on chain. A lot of networks have to limit this on purpose because of how their internal consensus and how they store data and things like that. And so overall, it's just kind of, I would say, the UX barrier for entering crypto is technical limitations that have been put in place from the early networks, and a lot of networks have just kind of taken and kept. They haven't really tried to work around them. And then when we kind of look at how SKALE has evolved from there, right? Obviously, the number one thing that pretty much everyone knows when they hear SKALE is zero gas fees. That in itself opens up the door for so many of these other innovations, but it is such a key to onboarding, the next hopefully 100 million billion people to a Web3 world. Additionally, like I said before, the ability to do more on chain is such a game changer. If you're only doing a small NFT collection or something very basic, then maybe it's not as relevant to you. But if you look at Xorg, they're such a great example. They're storing massive amounts of data on chain, and it's just functionally impossible to do anywhere else. And because they're doing that, they can then start to open up these better experiences to the people building on top of their data and to their end users. Lastly, it's just the kind of combination again of zero gas fees and then what do developers need? Everything from on-chain random number generation, the on-chain Oracle like Stan was talking about, even the bridging, right, and the messaging protocols. It's really just about giving developers the easy to use tools, right, that they don't have to think about, which then lets them create even better user experiences for their customers. And so SKALE is just a really great piece of kind of this flexible infrastructure that really lets you take these barriers down and build great experiences.
It's awesome. So, and to summarize, some of the barriers we're breaking down, of course, zero gas fees, the ability to have large contracts and compute those on chain, and amazing dev tools. Stan, did you have anything else to add to that for the barriers?
I will just give this interesting story. From time to time, I go to DApp Radar to check our DApps. And some of our DApps actually run, in addition of SKALE, run on some other networks, fee networks. And it's understandable. People come to us, but then they probably apply for whatever grants to us for other networks. So we have. I mean, you guys can. I don't want to tell you the names, but go to DApp Radar and find some of the SKALE DApps, and some of them run on other networks. What's really amazing, you can check, and then sometimes you have a DApp that runs on like 5 networks, and I can claim that every time I checked, like literally 99.9% of transactions run. Their transactions run on SKALE, and you go choose another network on DApp Radar, and you see that they have like 10 transactions. So I think from this perspective, we already solved the problem. Is a total proof that Web3 on blockchains, which non-zero fees, is dead. It's impossible. And it's every piece of information we have tells us that it's dead. It's impossible to run Web3 on blockchains which have non-zero fees. We've been telling these people for a long time, but it's just a proof. Just go to DApp Radar and check. People just don't want to pay every time they click So from this perspective, I think we already solved big piece of the problem. But then, talking about the future, I would say that the next thing definitely for the next like market cycle is going to be AI. AI is probably going to be like 1,000 times bigger than everything else. And for me, to tell about the future, question I ask is, can one run ChatGPT on Scale? And currently, Scale is the only network by which you could possibly run ChatGPT. You could run ChatGPT on Scale, but our block time like 3 to 4 seconds, which is not so bad. But you would see like things not getting so interactive as compared to real ChatGPT. So I think the number one problem that we need to solve literally is shrink time to match the ChatGPT, the real one. So decentralized ChatGPT is able to provide the same user experience as a centralized one. So for the future, basically that's going to be the criteria for us, and essentially performance is the most important thing. The finalization time is by far the most important, because you can, if you want to run a decentralized ChatGPT on Scale, if a particular blockchain is not performing well, you can run 1,000 chains, right? There's no problem. But the finalization time is key, because you want to be interactive. So that's why I think for AI and for gaming the same, totally the same, because the finalization time is the key, and we improved it with this release, and we're gonna be that's the kind of the holy grail for the future, to shrink.
Yeah, speaking of ChatGPT, I know you just highlighted a few reasons what makes Scale good for AI, but just give me the pitch. Like, we're in an elevator and I'm like, oh, why is Scale good for AI? What would you tell me?
I think if you think about the decentralized ChatGPT, basically it's known to everyone that OpenAI, right, runs ChatGPT not on a single computer, but they have probably millions of computers, tens of millions of computers. OpenAI, right? So it's totally clear that if someone wants to run an alternative to centralized ChatGPT, you need to, if you're really serious, if you really want to have an alternative to match the performance, right, you need to have millions of blockchains. So the only network which can provide lots of blockchains is Scale. It's not even about us running an alternative. It's just no one else is able to do it. We are the only ones that are able to do it. I'm not aware of any other blockchain network that can do it. So basically, you need to be able to scale, and then you imagine you have you can scale the number of blockchains, and then pretty much the only thing you need to have the agents that actually do the machine learning, but they don't have to be part of blockchain. You could potentially, people talk about different types of things, like you could have things like miners. You could imagine a solution where the blockchain provides coordination, and the actual inference, the actual AI machine learning, the number crunching is provided by separate agents like number crunchers. So I feel that if you want, it's not so difficult actually to build a decentralized ChatGPT, because the models are open source. There are models now which are almost on par with OpenAI, the open source models from Facebook and other companies. So essentially, it's not actually so hard. You need to run open source models, but also need this coordination layer where this number crunchers coordinate. And for this, you will need to have more than one blockchain, and each of those blockchains needs to have a fast finalization time. So if whatever you're trying to do, like whatever side you're coming from, if you want to build a decentralized ChatGPT, you'll come to Scale. Almost there's an impossibility logically to get anything. You need to have many chains, right? And the chains need to be fast from the point of view of finalization time. So it's almost impossible mathematically to have any other architecture. But we need to get there, and then I think the way to get there is for us to improve our performance, especially finalization time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would need to be the Burj Khalifa's elevator. if that was the
Yeah.
pitch you were going to give me. We missed our floors a few minutes back, but that's awesome. I love it. Thank you, Stan.
Yeah. In addition to what Stan said, for example, we have Exort applications that could never be run on
Right, that's a good point.
other chains like Ethereum. They will just use so many gas, so many transactions, and so many computational powers that they should pay on Ethereum like millions of dollars probably. But that's why they are choosing us, because we are like,
that's a good proof.
Yeah.
But even Exort is getting, I mean, their chain is getting overloaded. So I suppose they will at some point need another chain. I mean, Exort is out of all built applications, DMs. Exort is the only thing where I know it's an actual example of a production level AI. And they have this also the same architecture of decentralized ChatGPT. They have lots of agents. Currently, they have one chain, but I think they're doing extremely well. I think this chain is getting full. So at some point, they'll need to have another.
Yeah. In fact, they're doing like already AI. Doing sentimental analysis on tweets, and they're doing
incredible. It's like people talking about decentralized AI. We have a decentralized AI. I've been like tweeting and like trying to shout, like basically tell people, here's the app.
Yeah.
The best ever, the blockchain AI app.
Yeah, Expert is definitely an interesting case study. On the topic of AI, Stan, the community has been having a lot of fun with your AI creations. So outside.
Thank you so much. Actually, I use ChatGPT a lot. And I mean, that's actually, the more I use it, the more I see the limitations of it, because ChatGPT like tells you information in a particular way, but the problem is that sometimes you don't know, like there are some internal things, the parameters, but they tweak it in some way. And the problem about AI, which is it's not transparent, is that you don't know what's inside. So I feel the more people use ChatGPT, the more people understand that that's the key application of actually blockchain to AI, just to make it transparent and open source, essentially, for people to know what's inside.
Totally. I think we'd have to do a completely separate segment to really dive into how you're utilizing AI. It's very interesting. Sawyer, how can developers test their dApps on a SKALE testnet?
Absolutely. First, I have great news on that front. The SKALE developer community, as of last week, officially migrated to a new set of testnets based on Ethereum Haleski testnet as opposed to Ethereum Goerli. So huge thank you to D3 and the engineering team for getting all of that set up and migrated. It's going to make it hopefully a lot easier for devs to get access to Haleski ETH. Goerli ETH was running a little bit hard to find. But with that being said, also super excited to kind of talk about what changed and why it's so big for onboarding new developers. For those of you that didn't know, as of about a week ago, you had to be given access to one of the testnets for SKALE, unless you chose to build on the Chaos testnet, which was wide open for everybody to deploy to. As of this new migration, now you have the ability to actually choose one of the 4 core hub chains. So the Europa DeFi hub, the Nebula Gaming hub, the Titan AI hub, or the Calypso kind of social everything hub. And you can get some S-Fuel from the new S-Fuel station, which went live a couple weeks ago. Pick your chain RPC and deploy right away. You don't need to be whitelisted. There's no friction points. You get to start building on the hub that you'll most likely go to if it fits within your area. And then you can just kind of hit the ground running. And then obviously, you can come join the SKALE developer Discord or one of the other SKALE community channels if you're interested in, getting support and things like that from the community. But overall, like I said, it's been very streamlined over the last couple of weeks. You can go to the SKALE developer docs, which is at docs.skale.network. And you'll see right on that first develop page, there's now a kind of 3, 4, 5 step process that walks you through everything. So We hope that we'll see a lot more people and developers coming to build now and not worry about getting SFuel or finding the endpoints. Hopefully, it's a lot more simpler. But as with everything, if you have feedback, please do let us know. We have a lot more coming to make this even easier over the next couple of months. But your feedback is always appreciated. So yeah, testnet, let's build, guys.
Awesome. It sounds very straightforward. Select your hub, go to the docs, follow all the steps on the docs. And SKALE has awesome developer support. You're looking right at him, the great Axios himself. D3, how does SKALE ensure the scalability of its network while maintaining high security and decentralization? And tell me a few of the key technologies that are behind the balance.
It is a great pleasure, Zach. So just first of all, we have like a pool of validator nodes. When we are creating, or like when the community creates the new chain, it's like we're choosing 16 random nodes from this pool and create the chain on these nodes. But the nodes are not attached to this chain forever. It could happen and node rotation. So in a random point of time, these nodes in the chains could be rotated, and the node can never be sure that it will be in this chain on another chain. It will be always migrating from one chain to another chain. So because of this, like 16 chains are randomly rotated in the chain. 16 nodes are randomly rotated in chains to another nodes. So because of this, none of these nodes can be just and you use the fact that this chain is presented in on this node as a matter of hack or something like this. It will be rotated in any time. So because of the rotation and because of the validator pool, the pool of validator nodes, we can guarantee that the network is working and it's pretty secure. Also, for every step that I talked about, like creation, rotation, we have like a lot of things that are doing in the background, like distributed key generation, like it's a really important procedure in the creation and rotation. And all of these things also are secured by our level of storing the keys that is required for our validators to handle the keys, not on the machine, like in the file, in the like TXT file, but on the SGX server. SGX server is like secure enclaves that handles this private key, and you never will get it out of the box. So it's additional level of security for our chain, for our nodes, and for our validator community also. Yeah, so there are a lot of things in the background, but it's like the main thing that makes our network secure and in the same time as much fast as possible, but it will be even more faster in the future.
Definitely. Thanks for that information. It is a lot. And so for those of you that are interested in learning more, we have a great article on pooled security on the SKALE blog. Also, D3, I am going to plug in your Twitter handle for those that are interested in chatting more about it. You can go ahead and follow him on Twitter, RIKON_AZANE. RIKON_AZANE. The entire team is available on Twitter, and they're always ready to answer your questions. Just going to send a blast of people your way. But to end off our rapid fire, we have a very important question from the community, and I will pass it to Stan first. Stan, what superpower do you most envy, and how do you wish you could use it?
That's an interesting question. I think the superpower that I would want to have is to explain SKALE to people better, because the problem with blockchain is that it's highly mathematical, because it's computer science, it's also distributed systems, multiple agents talking to each other. using very complex algorithms. And the problem is that it's hard for people to compare like one blockchain against another blockchain, right? And people used to say, like during the previous crypto summer, oh, my blockchain is 1,000 TPS, and another person would say, my blockchain is 2,000 TPS. This type of stuff. But then how you measure TPS? Because TPS, like, it's nonsense because you can have a powerful computer, depending on what computer you use or computers, what network. And a hugely bad thing is that it also proliferated these people that instead of using mathematics, kind of started to use pseudo-mathematics. For instance, hash graph. Like they said, they have their algorithm is gossip on gossip. And I remember people coming to me and saying, "What is gossip on gossip?" And I was like, I have no clue. This is really not mathematics. But the problem is that people. You had people that had nothing to do with computer science and mathematics, and you have people that have nothing to do with computer science and mathematics, and they're using these moon math words. And unfortunately, the public believes them, right? And so the superpower I would like to have is to be able to explain things in simpler terms to people and provide better analogies. And that's really, I think that's one of the most important things we have at Scale is actually explain Scale to people and explain why Scale is better.
What an interesting superpower to choose. So yours is blockchain and tech related. That's the first time I've ever heard that. It's very cool. I feel like that's something you already have, to be fair. D3, take it away. What is a superpower you wish you had, and how would you utilize it?
Yeah, in addition to what Stan said, it would be really awesome that if everyone that is using now Web2, like Web2 platforms, getting knowledge about us, about Scale platform, because right now we are like moving forward and we are becoming more and more stable and more suitable for our, not only for Web3 customers, not only for DApps, but probably in the like near future, like other projects that are using now Web2 solutions, they will take a look on our solution and they will understand that it's really amazing and it's as such compatible as other Web2 solutions. But it's like it's not superpower. It's the future. It's just a future. It's just a matter of time. For like about superpowers that it's really superpower that I will not get in right now, but I don't know. It's I think I would like to handle the weather outside my window, because sometimes the weather is you just see, it's like it's raining, it's constantly raining. How I will get home? Oh, and you are thinking just about this, and so it would be nice to just get okay. And now, it's sunny. It's not raining anymore. Okay, it's like for me, it's pretty good thing, I think. So it's
Another
really,
interesting answer. I mean, weather control is something that's already being practiced. Like when there's a drought in certain parts of the Middle East, they're using machines that bring about rain. Um, Very interesting. I've never heard these responses before, guys. I'm blown away. Sawyer, take it away.
Yeah, I guess if I could have a superpower, I'd want probably like super speed. Not because running fast, which would probably be pretty cool, would be pretty cool, but it would help me do more with less time. Whenever you see the superheroes that run with like super speed or whatever, it's like the world slows down around them. I can only imagine how much I could get done if I had way more time because I could slow everything down. So that'd be my superpower of choice. It would let me build many more Scale tools in much less time for the community. So yeah, that's mine.
I am at my final straw with you guys. Other people that I've asked this question, other Web3 folks, blockchain folks, you guys are the only ones that brought it right back to Scale. So I think my advice is go outside, go outside and enjoy the world. It sounds like everything you're doing is revolving around Scale, which is awesome. It just goes to show your dedication, but also so important to have things outside of Scale.
Yeah, sometimes I'm looking into the video.
Okay. There we go. That's something. All right. Well, it was a pleasure from Stan, D3, and Sawyer. Thank you guys so much for joining us and notifying the community about what the Scale engineering community is working on. These are very, very exciting updates. And we definitely look forward to it. There's Stan Kladko on Twitter, Rycon_Zani. Sorry if I murdered that pronunciation. And then we have the great Axios. Definitely give them a follow and stay engaged with their content. But yeah, that concludes our stream. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to add?
I would like to add just to thank our guys for joining, our community members. I know that we have really hardcore fans that join us all the time, so I would like to thank them and say hello to everyone. If you guys want something more interesting or do it in a different way, please tell us on Twitter. Anything crazy you want, we'll do. So give us feedback on Twitter.
Definitely, we're always open to that feedback. We had around 945 people coming in and out of this stream. So it's amazing to see how many people are interested in Scale engineering. Okay. All right, folks. Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead, D3.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's 900. You just told 940 viewers. Yeah, so I want to say hello and thank you that you're with us. And this session that we are in right now, it's for you guys, and we are looking forward for new questions, new milestones, from our DApps, from the users of these DApps, and from all our community. Thank you once again, and I think see you in not so long time from now.
Definitely. All right, folks. I hope you guys have a great start to your week. Bye.
Okay,
Ciao, ciao.
bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Ну что,
Bye bye.
хорошо, мы еще не выключили, если нет.